You build resilience. So if you've seen shit fall apart before, then, next time it's not going to be as bad, or you'll know how to deal with it with a level head.
I tell people it feels like I've done several degrees in my startup. There's so much in front of you, and you've got this incredible skill set that you can use to launch you forward into
being really important now that AI and these big LLMs are getting in and giving us the ability to do technical tasks really easily.
People have great relationships with people that they can trust, and you need to understand the dynamic of the relationship. We are back with another episode of the Do As I Say, Not As I Do podcast, where we answer real questions and sometimes insane questions from Reddit about growing your startup. And today I'm excited to be joined by Sam Robertson, one of my oldest friends in the startup world. And even though he probably didn't see it this way, he was my first ever competitor. Just like me, Sam started out in his career by studying civil engineering in Brisbane, Australia, which is exactly what I did at the same university. It also means that Sam must be incredible at Excel and Google Sheets, just like me. But Sam started his startup journey with an edtech startup called Scooter Tutor in Australia that he scaled for years, that I absolutely saw as an early competitor for us. Sam then pivoted and took that business into the medtech space. After this, Sam spent years helping Trakis Kalinack to scale the multi-billion-dollar organization CloudKitchens through Australia and across the world. And now he's over in America in the Big Smoke. Well, he was in the Big Smoke. I think New York is the Big Smoke. I'm not even really sure, but he's in San Francisco now. He's the VP of Business Development at Carbon Robotics, which is just fucking killing it right now. Sam is just generally an absolute expert at product management, quantitative analysis, go-to-market strategy, and just really execution. And I haven't really seen anything get thrown in Sam's lap that he can't handle. So I'm super excited to record today. But mate, welcome. Thanks for coming on today.
Thanks, Joel. Way too kind, man. But great to be here. Good to see you.
I'm going to ask because I actually don't know. In those early days, like when you were in Scooter Tutor and I was, early days of Iga when we were doing much more just, B2C tutoring, did you ever see us as a competitor?
100%, a million
Really?
percent. Like, yeah, dude, it's like you always see who's doing things in similar spaces. And I
Yeah.
think even without knowing where they're at, it's very easy to kind of build everyone up and you think you're competing from day one. So we for sure saw you guys as that.
I love that. I realized I'd never asked you that. We've hung out so many times. But we
Yeah.
were just like, holy shit, Scooter Tutor just raised around. Holy shit, look what they're doing here. Like everything was always so, I don't know, so competitive for, it turns out, no reason.
I know.
Um,
Well, and you guys were going like down the university route. And we were like, oh my God, maybe that's a better strategy than what we're trying to do, which was like going straight
yeah.
at families and students. So yeah, it's funny how that all works.
Yeah, we were always thinking that too. I guess grass is always greener, right?
Yep.
Um, awesome. Well, today we're going to do a brand new segment. You're going to be my guinea pig for this. So
Alrighty.
last week I saw someone, this amazing facilitator called Alexis from the Mashari Method. He ran this for a live workshop, and I wanted to try it with you. So I'm just going to give you some words or phrases or names, and I just want you to respond with what immediately comes to you. Just like one or two words, what immediately comes to mind or comes to the
Okay.
heart for you.
Okay.
All right. Your co-founder.
Complicated.
All right. Gut versus data or data.
Important distinction, but both important.
Imposter syndrome.
Very, very, very real.
Legacy.
Uh, Also important, but honestly, I don't know if that's something that I've uh, focused too much on. But I think, yeah, it's an interesting topic.
Traveling with golf clubs.
Absolutely necessary.
Yes. I thought I'd just throw that little one there from hanging out with you last week. Um, Adam Newman.
Uh, Visionary or fraud? I'm not quite sure.
Toxic founders.
Um, Horrible in all sense of the word.
I was wondering if you'd take that in a self-reflective way, but maybe not. Maybe you're not a toxic founder, or you weren't a toxic founder.
I like to think I wasn't, but
Yeah,
you never know.
yeah, not to you anyway. Um, Unicorns or cockroaches?
Unicorns.
Cash flow issues.
Cash is king.
All right, and lastly, thanks, but we aren't interested in investing right now.
Totally fine. There's always someone else who is going to be interested. You just got to get in front of the right amount of people, and you'll find you
Oh
one.
man, so positive. Love it, man. Well, that was fun. I like that. That was much more fun than I even expected. So I'm going to try it again. We're going to keep that segment moving forward. But
Will do.
well, let's move on to the real questions, the Reddit questions, the meat of the podcast. So you've done a startup, you've left a startup, and you've just fucking killed it since then. So I've got a few questions about really, got that kind of transition. So, what to do after an exit? A year ago, I joined a startup after 10 plus years in a corporate sales career in the oil and gas industry. My startup is selling SaaS and IoT solution to the oil and gas industry, starting to have success. The leadership is planning to sell the company in the next 1 to 2 years, so a liquidation event is coming. I guess he hopes anyway. It has been fun launching a product and seeing it grow. After the liquidation event, what do I do next? How do I find a job? This is from xmouth7. I thought that was interesting, right? Because the exit is like the goal, the dream of every startup, right? But a lot of people do feel lost at what happens after that startup.
Yeah, I think that that's very true. I think it's, similar whether you're a founder of a company or whether you're an employee and you're getting this great liquidity event. I think the amount kind of matters to what might be next and potentially how much time you could take off. But honestly, I feel like after that type of liquidity event, I would recommend thinking about your passions. What has been the idea behind in the back of your mind, or the little side hustle that you've been interested in? And I would double click on those things, because I think the things you do in your own time when you're working or when you're doing whatever you're doing in your life, these little side hustles typically are where you've got some underlying passion. And I think that's probably a nice way to guide what you want to do next.
I guess, what did you do, right? Because you finished your startup and I don't think you had a ton of liquidity and you had to go into it
No,
to a new
no,
career.
yeah. So it was an interesting one for me, and I was lost for a little while. You invest a ton of emotion and time and energy into building a company, and for me, I rolled into a business called Schedulo. Not for a huge amount of time, but there were really nice synergies there between what we were building at Scooter Tutor and Icosian. It was kind of a remote workforce software management, a workforce management platform, and Schedulo does a similar thing. So that was a natural fit for me. And then honestly, I got my big break finding CloudKitchens and getting the opportunity to join them and help build that business in Australia. And so for me, um, you know, building, being with a really high quality team, in almost kind of contributing to the invention of something is what I'm really excited about. And so I love that journey, and spent a bunch of time with those guys before obviously landing with Carbon Robotics.
Yeah, I mean, like your journey is super inspiring from the outside. Like it because I think it's really easy to finish a startup, and even if you leave with nothing or a little bit, or like when you start a business, like you want it to be worth $1 billion. So everything probably just feels like a failure. But your career has gone like, it feels like it's gone just from strength to strength to strength. And I'm sure it didn't feel like it at the time, right? But looking back, it feels like this perfect journey. And like I love looking at you and pointing to you as like a perfect example of like the life after startups can be fucking awesome, right? And like it's actually this amazing leap off point for people, and you can go on to do such bigger and better things. Like Scooter Tutor, it was like it was based like in Australia, a small market, and even like within part of Australia in like the education industry, which we both know has its own challenges. And now you're at like Carbon as like leading like huge like portions of the company and strategy and stuff like that for a company that is, like you said, you just came back from an award ceremony winning new awards. Like it just raised like crazy amounts of money. Like like what would you say to people that maybe, I guess, like are feeling a bit stuck, maybe even to like your early self, right? Because like surely that was like a scary journey.
That was a really scary journey. Yeah, I remember kind of leaving, wrapping up Scooter Tutor, and really nervous about what was going to be next. And the at the time, you think, am I kind of a failure? Do other people, when I'm looking for my next thing, see me as a failure? Do people value, building and scaling a very kind of early stage company? And we achieved some things, and it was great experience, but it's really a big unknown immediately after that. And what I learned is that there is a lot of respect out there for people who do that and go through that journey. But even without the respect, I think the things that you actually learn how to do, the resilience that you build in going out on your own and like getting involved with a startup is seriously legit. You know, hiring people, firing people, raising capital, working in operations, working in whatever part of these types of businesses is incredibly valuable. And I found that after that business, it was really helpful for me as I continued to kind of progress in my career. So in hindsight, I look back at it as like overwhelmingly positive. And then obviously just the personal lessons going through that kind of those transitions and those experiences is also incredibly valuable. You know, you build resilience in the next problems that you're facing, and if you've seen shit fall apart before, then next time it's not going to be as bad, or you'll know how to deal with it with a level head.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. It definitely feels like, I tell people, it feels like I've done several degrees in my startup, like in just like the crazy amount of learning that you've got to go through. But it sounds like, right, if you're at that precipice, you're looking at, for whatever reason, your startup is wrapping up, even if you're like, an employee there or a founder, whether it's wrapping up for good, medium or bad, there's so much in front of you, and you've got this like incredible skill set that you can use to launch you forward into like bigger and better things. So I guess depending how big the exit is, right? So really, like the advice would be, depending on the exit size. If you've got a huge exit and you've got a bunch of cash, like maybe just chill out a little bit. But if you also need to go in and get another job kind of soon, I guess the advice I would probably give here is like, you've now got like probably a much stronger network than you realize. So go to everyone in that network and just start to work on building your network. So this guy's got like a 2-year time horizon. Awesome. Just start meeting as many people as you can, because in the next 2 years, when you do eventually leave, different job opportunities will just kind of fall out of that as well. And the more people you speak to, I think the more you'll see like, oh, Sam worked at this kind of company. Is that interesting to me? Yes or no? Or like, I spoke to Joel. He works at this kind of company. Is that interesting or no? And you'll start to get directed into what's interesting to you. And the more people you just tell, I'm thinking about what to do afterwards, I think jobs will just come to you, really. Like ex-startup founders and early startup contributors, I think, are really valuable hires in almost any company.
For sure. Yeah, I agree with that. I think that whether it's fundraising or finding a job, and just building relationships in general, I think a lot of these things can often be numbers games. Like the more, there is sometimes an element of luck, you hear people say, but I think the more you put yourself out there, the more opportunity you're giving yourself to be lucky, if that makes sense.
Yeah, for
So I
sure.
think, if you go out and meet 3 people, you're probably very unlikely that you'll find your dream job. If you go out and meet 100 people or 1,000 people, your chances are much higher. Like, yes, it's still potentially luck, but I think, yeah, you're really giving yourself that opportunity to kind of strike gold.
Yeah. Love it, man. Well, XMath 7, you've been advised. And we'll move on to the next challenge here. So this one is called, how do you build a relationship with leadership? Any recommendations on how to build a solid relationship with leadership, e.g., directors, VPs, SVPs, etc.? How often do you see them? What do you talk to them about when you meet? I don't know how to get started. This is from Anonymous Spy. Anonymous, I don't know. It's something like that. It's a long ass complex name. But Anonymous Spy will go with. So yeah, I guess like I thought this would be interesting for you, Sam. Like I've been in startup land for so long that I actually don't really think about the internal dynamics of working at a company with directors and SVPs, because people only ever like kind of do a performance to me, right? When you're a founder, like people are never really honest to you, to be honest, and you've got to try and read through that. Whereas so you're looking up and building relationships with the top people at Carbon, and you've done it, with Trakis Kalinack, all these different people, and you've done an amazing job of it. Like what's your kind of like approach here? What do you, how would you go about it from if you're starting from scratch again?
I think a big thing for me, and I think a big thing for a lot of senior leaders, is trust. And I think trust in you being a safe set of hands, in your ability to do what you say you're going to do. And so that is, I think, the biggest thing is whether or not you've got a leader who you start with the trust, or whether it's a leader where you've got to build it first. People have different approaches, and I've worked with kind of both camps on that front. It's all about building that trust, building the relationship, building the trust, proving that you are the safe set of hands. I think things that help in today's kind of day and age with that, I think one thing that I've always found extremely valuable is kind of a broad, kind of vague topic, but storytelling, and the ability to bring and convey a story and a message and a value, or a benefit of what we're trying to achieve, not just what it is, or kind of the end result, but why it matters. And you see that in a bunch of different fields. So one really perfect example where um, there's traditionally resistance is with kind of senior data people might be great at analyzing data and presenting data, but very poor at telling the story that means, or what is the impact that these numbers are going to have on our business. And so to me, that's a really great way of kind of building the trust, is building your ability to tell a story, to understand kind of the root, the values, the benefits, the why of the thing, and then continue to prove that you're a safe set of hands with senior people in the workforce. And I think that's probably a pretty good starting point.
It's interesting. You've answered it in a completely different direction that I would have expected, but I guess it kind of makes sense. Like if I'm to summarize that back to you really crudely, it's just like, just be fucking good at your job. like do what you say you're going to do, and add real value. And there's ways you can go around that to do it.
Yeah,
That makes sense,
yeah.
right?
I think that matters. Yeah, I really do think that that matters.
Like that, like I can build relationships with people that I work with, and who work for me, and it can be really awesome. But if they don't deliver, at the end of the day, I'm just, they have to get fired at some point, right? Like at the end of the day, we're all here to run a business, and I can, the people are great and they're super fun, but the people that I work most closely with and that I have the best long-term relationships with are people that I can trust to do work. I'm just
Yeah,
like,
that's exactly
I
right.
know when this
Yeah.
goes to you, it gets done.
Yep, they're the people that get promoted. They're the people that you'll see CEOs constantly look to deliver on certain things, even if it's outside of their scope. They'll know that, right, this person is a safe set of hands and will get the job done. And so to me, that's a great way of kind of achieving that. And there's a bunch of things that I think contribute to that, like having a motor, having discipline, having a high bar for quality, having, being good at building relationships. I think all of these things, a lot of these things you actually hear now about uh, being really important now that AI and these big LLMs are getting in and giving
Mm.
us the ability to do technical tasks really easily. But what it's not able to do is the human to human side of business, and building relationships and maintaining relationships and communicating, and selling a story and hitting the kind of emotional side. And so in what I do at Carbon, that's a very big part of my role. And so I see that as being really important. And I think with AI and these technologies continuing to grow, I think it's going to be a really, really important thing to really crush it in the professional world.
And I guess that makes sense, right? But are there any other tactics, for lack of a better word, that you try? Like, like you try to get dinner with them or to go for a walk or something like that, because like you're also like a very confident guy, so you're happy enough to just like get in their face, and build that relationship with them. But are there any things that you like recommend to make it more social, or do you just not even care about social? You're just like, I will just do a great job.
No, I think that's important. I definitely, there's the balance. I think it's different for different people. So I think different leaders, or different, even just not different personalities will weight different things differently. So you might have a leader or a colleague where it is much more objective, much more lacks of emotion, and it's more on the output and the performance. And there are others where it is more of a family type situation. And so you got to identify where the kind of these strengths are and what you need to play into. But I think an example, I use this a lot in fundraising, is um, I think one of the most effective ways to build a relationship, not only build a relationship with investors, but also give yourself much more of a shot at raising capital successfully, is the idea of don't just go meet an investor and ask for money. If you can, build a relationship with the purpose of doing this, of telling them, hey, this is what we're going to do over the next quarter or the next 6 months. Go away, do it, execute on what you told them you're going to do, come back in that 3, 6 months and say, hey, look, this is what we did. We told you last time we were going to do it. Now we've done it. Do that again. This next quarter, this is what we're going to focus on. These are the goals we're going to hit. Go away, work on that, get it done, and then come back. You do that 2 or 3 times. And now back to that point of like safe set of hands. I think that's what people want to see. It's like, wow, this guy has told me he's going to do something. He's now executed on it multiple times. Now there's going to be way more willingness to invest. Or if it's, a different relationship at work, it's like way more willingness to trust you with a project or whatever it might be. So I think that's a tactic that I've seen work really, really well. And it does come down to execution a lot of the time. So yeah, I think that's a little tip that I would say works.
I love it, man. I mean, I've got like tons of ideas around this that I've probably talked on the podcast a billion times, just like get people on a podcast, create content with them, go to dinner with them, go to walks with them, all that stuff. But I think I'll probably leave it a bit more on your side of the street today, which is like, I actually think execution is at the core of building great relationships with leadership or investors with anyone. And at the end of the day, people have great relationships with people that they can trust, and you need to understand the dynamic of the relationship. And the relationship with your boss, there's a component of friendship, but more than anything, like there is a professional relationship with that, and professional relationships come down to I did what I said I would do, right? We made a deal. I work here, you pay me, I create value. And I created that fucking value, and I created it really well and quickly and, ahead of schedule. And that is how you make leadership love you. And I probably wouldn't have thought about it like that. But when I look at all the people that have worked for me and the people that I fucking love working with more than anyone else, they're just incredible operators. They get shit done at such a high quality, better than I could have done it. And that's it. So I think that's right. It's like build trust by executing like a maniac.
For sure. Work out what you're great at, try to get into that world where you're great at something, or learn, continue to learn and then continue to execute and be a safe set of hands. Say what you're going to do, what you say you're going to do.
Love it. Well, you've been advised, and I know how to say that name now. I had a look again. It's Anonymous Psy, Psy. So Anonymous Psy, good job, mate. All right, and last question is it's called contacting potential customers. So I'm working on something, and I'm very unsure on how to go about contacting potential customers. I'm not looking to sell anything at the moment, but I am looking to at least be able to talk to people and make sure I'm going in the right direction. What are the best ways to find these people? From Lewis.
Okay, I love this question. I think it's framed in a really nice way as well, because it's not specific to I want to sell them something. So, firstly, I think this approach is way easier than if you're just hardcore trying to sell them something.
Yeah.
So I think the first thing is it really depends on the industry and the role and the type of person that you're trying to get in front of. And in general, you wanna be you want to be in their world. So if it's a corporate person or it's a startup person, it's probably on LinkedIn. These guys are rolling around on LinkedIn all the time. If it, Carbon Robotics, we work with farmers. So we're going to trade shows, we're out in the field, we're doing these events that are out in their world. So you want to be in the world of who you're trying to get in front of. I think in terms of getting product feedback or this type of pre-sale, non-sale conversation, hitting someone up on LinkedIn and just being like super genuine, if LinkedIn's the right place, but being super genuine about, hey, this is what I'm doing. Love what you're doing with your career or whatever it is. Would love to pick your brain. People are often really responsive to that. I've had a bunch of conversations with founders or with other people who are trying to come up with ideas that have approached me in that similar way. And I'm always interested in kind of helping out or learning a little bit more about those types of people. So that genuine outreach, not trying to sell anything, that is very effective.
Yeah, I'm in complete agreement with that. I think there's this like common adage or common expression which says, ask for money, get advice, ask for advice, get money. And this person's already got the right approach, which is go out and ask for advice. And that is always the best approach, right? Like ask advice about like what you're building or what the industry is like, or about what their experiences are and how you can kind of like augment or transpose that into your life. I think always going out and asking for advice is the most important thing to do. Um, then that second point of be where they are, I really love just how simple that expression is. Just find where they are. For the people I sell or that I look to raise from, it's all LinkedIn. So LinkedIn is like that's my hunting ground. I'm always on LinkedIn. But some people are better to go out on Facebook, right? Because like if you're selling, or looking to sell a different like set of people where they hang out on Facebook, go through Facebook or Instagram or Twitter or like you said, trade shows. Find the pockets on the internet or physical pockets where all these people are going to be, and that can be a little bit hard to begin with, right? That's probably like the hardest thing to work out, and you might need to try a few, right? Go to Twitter and try and find the people and message them. And if they don't respond, maybe their accounts aren't active. Or then try LinkedIn or try the trade shows. But the more you speak to them, you'll also find those pockets. You'll understand their behaviors a little bit more as well. But definitely finding the pockets. And I guess like what would be your kind of reach out approach, Sam? Like what would you kind of say to them in a message?
Well, I think, to be honest, like relatively straightforward and kind of straight to the point. I tend to not really love it when I get, a big long-winded message about a specific topic, or particularly if it's kind of cold outreach. I don't mind if they're just, hey Sam, I see you work in this field. I'm uh a recent graduate of X, Y, or Z, and I'm exploring an idea in the space. I'd love to jam with you on the idea and would love 15 minutes of your time if that's cool. That type of just very fluid, kind of normal human to human interaction, as if you were to go up to someone in person and just be like, hey, do you mind if I get you for 5 minutes to just kind of jam on this idea? Is I think for me the thing that resonates the most. As soon as it gets into the world of, ooh, I feel like I'm getting sold something here.
Yeah.
Uh,
I'm like, fuck that.
I
I hate you.
yeah,
I'm
I'm
immediately
like,
blocking.
I'm gonna, that's immediately getting deleted, or that's, I'm not accepting the LinkedIn request. So just the genuine outreach. I think that always works best.
Yeah. And as I just thought this might be interesting when you were talking. I'm going to read out the messages that I sent to you, Sam, when my first reach out messages to you.
All right, let's go.
Um, and I think it kind of takes your advice about it. It feels pretty genuine. So the very first one was on July 18, 2019, which is, hey mate, congrats on the new role. I think you'll make a great addition to that team. I'd love to catch up for coffee and talk about Scooter Tutor. Let me know if you have time. And you responded pretty quickly, just being like, thanks, mate. Definitely keen. Office is just a block away. So catch up anytime, maybe lunch next week. So
There
it's
you go.
like,
That's it.
I was
That's
asking for
how
advice about like what you did and it kind of worked out. Um, but then I realized that we didn't actually speak for another 4 years after that. so so then I said, hey mate, I'll be in New York next Wednesday. I'd love to grab a coffee. Are you around? And again, that worked. You're like, mate, great to hear from you. Of course.
there you go.
Just super genuine. And and then I think we didn't speak for another year or two after that. And and so this was my most recent one, which I think kicked everything off the best, which is a different approach completely, which I think you can see the way I've changed over time. Hey mate, congrats on the new role. You almost have got a new role again. Um, I hope you've been well. I've just launched a new podcast, and I'd love to have you on as a guest. Would it be crazy to have you on the show? And you're like, yep,
There
great,
you
let's
go.
do it. And that was like, that was actually a year and a half ago. We're recording now.
There you go. Maybe I'm just, I'm like, I say, ignore what I said. I say yes to everyone. No, I'm
Yeah,
just kidding.
maybe. Yeah, but I guess that they're all like, pretty genuine, like personalized messages, right? Like I'd noticed
Dude,
something, but
that's right. I think it's just low key. I think the thing that helps there is, like, we obviously knew each other as well. And
yeah,
so I think the other thing I'd add is that warm intros is also always really powerful.
yeah,
If you've got even like working people that you don't know to get a warm intro, like that's a
yeah,
strategy. You can go in via someone you hardly know on LinkedIn to just try and get them to intro you to someone else.
yeah,
That will work for sure. But the more genuine is always the way that I lean. It's like, get as genuine as possible. Don't try to sell anything straight away. That's kind of the best approach, I think.
I guess maybe one thing that we haven't said as well is that this also is a numbers game, right? Heaps of people are just
It's
going to
always
ignore
a
you.
numbers game. Yep,
So it's
it's
like
always a numbers game.
I always just expect to get maybe a 5% response rate on LinkedIn. So I will regularly send 100 outreach messages to new people I want to meet on LinkedIn, and just kind of get
Yep,
like, a few booked in here and there for the podcast or a conversation and stuff like that. But one thing I
yep.
have been trying recently, which I'd be interested in your thoughts on this, is I say, Sam, it's crazy how many people have told me to reach out to you recently. I'd love to get a coffee and ask you about X.
See, I see it, but I also know that there's a tactic in that.
True.
There's all these tactics about the messaging and it's like, Sam, I saw you guys won this award, or Sam, I
Yeah.
spoke to customer X, Y, or Z about you
True. I do
guys,
hate that actually.
and if you phrase it in a way where I get an inkling that it's a lie, then
Yeah.
I'm immediately turned off.
True.
And so the more genuine you can be, the better. But yeah, that's what I think.
True. I guess maybe the one that I do get the best response from is like, hey, Sam, X person told me to reach out. Because then like you put a
Mhm.
name in there as well. And
Yep.
that's best. But I guess, maybe just always opt for authenticity is
I
really the
think
message here.
authentic is the best because if I go and if I know that person really well and I shoot
Yeah.
them a text and say like, "Hey, who's this
Oh
Joel
yeah, I
guy?
wouldn't
Like,
lie
did you
about
tell
that.
him to
I would
reach
only do
me?"
that if
Yeah.
they said,
If they said it, then that's a
yeah,
different story. Then you're kind of hacking your way into a warm intro without it
yeah,
kind of happening. And that might work, but I think I just like kind of direct, authentic, keep it simple.
yeah.
That's the best for me.
Yeah, and I personally love LinkedIn. So if the people that you want to talk to are on LinkedIn, I love LinkedIn connection requests. It's 300 characters. It's super short. People read those messages a lot of the
Hmm.
time. It's the easiest way to get in. Well, let's bring this one to a close. So, how do you contact potential customers? Number one, always go for advice, not money. You'll learn way more. You'll find way more opportunities in that, and you'll recover a whole lot more value. A second thing is find out where they are, whether it's on LinkedIn or trade shows or Twitter or Facebook. Find the pockets on the internet or in real life that those people physically are, and spend your time in those areas. And lastly, is that reach out with authenticity. Find simple messages. Don't try and be salesy. Just try and be authentic. And especially when I think you can be specific. Like I want to learn about your experience with like X, Y, Z. I have a question that always lands well. And that's it. That's the easy way to get started. So, Louibs, you have been advised. So we'll move on to the last section of the show, which is plugs. So, Sam, what's going on? What do you want to plug at the moment?
Mate, the only one to plug for me is Carbon Robotics. For anyone who doesn't know, you should check it out. We literally kill weeds in farms with lasers. So it's as about a cooler technology as you can get. And so these guys are doing great things, saving the planet. No chemicals in fields, no hand labor out there crawling around on hands and feet. So really doing some cool things, and it's a great team. That's what's keeping me over here in the US, away from the great land down under. But yeah, loving working here, and I've got an incredible boss and incredible team, not only in the US, but these guys across Europe, and we've got folks down in Australia now. And yeah, so check them out. And yeah, that's all I'll give a shout out to.
Sam, for the future of carbon, is there any like desire to move into the consumer space where you could like buy one that does your own personal garden? Because I think about
Dude,
it all the time whenever I'm mowing my fucking lawn.
the number of people who've asked, like, get me like a little Roomba kind of
Yeah,
laser
yeah,
weeder
exactly.
and like my mum is constantly like, oh my God, I need it. I need one to like mow the lawn.
Yeah,
Uh, I think eventually, I think the first sort of step in that world is the mowing. There's like
yeah,
mowing Roombas now that'll get out and cut the lawn.
yeah, yeah,
You never know. Maybe we'll have a little laser weeder that you can kind of just throw out on your half an acre and get it done.
yeah.
But funny story about one of our very first customers is a grower in Colorado, and he grew up. And back in the day, they used to put all the kids on the back of the tractor with little spray guns, and they would spray. This is so bad that this is how they
Holy
used to do
shit.
it, but they would spray the chemicals to try and just hit the plants. So
Oh,
just hit the
jeez.
weeds and not the crops. And he told us that when he was a kid, like a teenager, he was like, lasers. get us lasers. And the way he thought it would roll out would be that they would have handheld lasers,
Oh,
and
geez.
they would be shooting the weeds and not the crops. And that was his vision for this concept. And so this guy, this very early customer of ours, was like right on the cutting edge, kind of like 20 years before anyone was ever even thinking about laser weeder. And now it's a reality. And now this guy's got a handful of machines of ours. But yeah, it's funny how people see these problems in their world, and they come up with these creative solutions that I think they're just sitting there ready to kind of attack. And yeah, that's just a funny anecdote on laser weeder and backstory on Carbon.
I love that. It sounds crazy, but not as crazy as like kids with like pretty severe pesticides sitting on the
Oh my
back of a
god,
moving tractor spraying shit.
dude, horrible. Like, these things are now proven to give people cancer, and these big chemical companies are getting lawsuits like crazy because it's literally farmers are getting cancer, and they're now starting to ban the different chemicals that are used for killing weeds. And so that's what's sort of given carbon robotics a great opportunity. But yeah, it's pretty scary to think of these little kids sort of exposed to this stuff for however long they were.
Jesus, man. Well, awesome, mate. Great. Well, let's wrap this one up, man. Thank you so much for coming on and arguing and laughing with me today. As always, I've loved the conversation.
Loved it. Thanks heaps, Joel. Good to see you, man.
This has been another episode of the Do As I Say podcast. We'll see you all next week.